Welcome. Today we're doing our first senior interview for this semester, and we're interviewing Nikita. So, you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for coming and thank you for watching here and there. Hi, my name is Nikita Mishra, as Nikita mentioned. I am a biochemistry major. I'm a third year in E, and I'm minoring in bioinformatics and computational biology.
So to start us off, you're a senior, so why don't you tell us what you plan to do after graduating?
Yeah, so I plan to go directly into a master's program in some sort of chemical or bio-based engineering. And then following that, I plan to go to medical school.
So then was that your original plan when you were coming into EAP? Has anything changed? And maybe has also anything changed since you were a child?
It was my original plan when I came to EAP. That's always kind of been my goal. I will say I didn't know that I was going to do a master's program until last year, until COVID hit, because I didn't come in aware that I was going to be graduating in 3 years. I was expecting it for. So that is what I wanted to do, at coming into EAP. But when I was a child, that's definitely not the case. It's vacillated a little bit. When I was little, I was really into leadership, and I really wanted to be a CEO, which is, it's quite the vision to have, right? So I got a little more realistic after that, and I got really into arguing with my parents. So that brought me into law. I wanted to be a human rights lawyer. And then my brother actually got into a bike crash when I was 12 years old. So we spent the night in the ED. And that night was the very specific day that I actually decided that I wanted to enter the medical field. So I wanted to be a doctor.
So then you talked about how the pandemic affected your life. Was there any other ways, maybe as far as extracurriculars, social aspects, things like that?
Yeah, well, the pandemic hit everyone, right? That's just the nature of what happened. But socially, I think it was interesting for me because I am actually not from Los Angeles. So I grew up in a very small town right outside of Denver, Colorado, called Greenfield, and we still have our house. So my family and I decided that, we would all go there for COVID, and what we thought was going to be 2 weeks turned into almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So it was interesting for me because I really, even if I wanted to just see my friends from a distance, that wasn't really an option, even as COVID slowed down in 2021. But I'm very lucky. I have my family, my parents and my brother, they all my best friends. They're amazing people. And so, and luckily our space in Colorado is big enough that we weren't really stepping on each other's toes all the time. So socially, I think it was interesting because I came back to EAP and I really didn't feel like I knew anybody. Even the people I was with my first year, I didn't really, we had kind of split off into all our own paths. So coming back into EAP, it's not really until this semester where I felt like, okay, now I'm, starting to feel like more social and more normal again. And beyond socially, I think extracurriculars, you're pre-med as well. So it changes, a lot of what we're told, go volunteer and shadow, and all of a sudden we can't do that without risk of COVID. So it was hard for me, but I think it made me a little bit more resourceful. I found a lot of virtual programs and, virtual shadowing opportunities and things like that I started to pursue for my specific, goals. And I also, the pandemic gave me the opportunity, I think, as well, to take on some new hobbies. I got really into fitness over COVID. I got back into dancing. I was just on the sort of end of a recovery of an injury when COVID started. And so I think it definitely did change a lot about just even also the way that I, consider time with other people. That has become a lot more valuable to me. So yeah, quite a few changes.
As far as virtual shadowing, volunteering, do you feel like those things have affected in that journey?
No. It was very disappointing, I think, to try and learn about being a doctor through a slideshow. It's the same way we sort of look at learning from, online. Like we learned online for 3 semesters pretty much. So when people would talk to me about this is what a day as a radiologist is like, you can also Google that, So it for me, it didn't really change my view on being a pre-med or wanting to be a doctor. But it did, I think, it gave me hours. So that's why I pursued it. But yeah, I really don't. It's never, if you could do it in person, if anyone can do it in person versus virtually, please do it in person. Yeah.
How about like youth in general? How do you feel like that's changed who you are? How do you feel like you would be if you hadn't gone into ETH? And do you think it was your right choice?
Absolutely. I talk to my parents about this all the time, being, I really think that I would have been so mentally unwell if I had stayed in the position that I was at. And there are a lot of things that were kind of playing into that. But I do truly believe that ETH was the right choice for me. And I think, it's a college experience. So it changes you as a college experience does. And it's also for me, it was the sort of latter half of my teenage years. So, I grew up a lot, and I can tell that there's a big difference between not my, social intelligence, emotional intelligence, and actual intelligence from when I started versus now. And I think one of the great things about the program was that I didn't have to do it. No, I was able to, I had the opportunity to do this knowing that other people had done it too. And it's comforting, right? Knowing that I'm not the only young teen on campus at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. So even beyond physical safety, it's when it comes to opportunities, I was able to remind myself that I'm not the only one.
Was there any moment in your undergraduate career where you kind of doubted yourself, whether it's in classes or in the future or anything?
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. For me especially, the spring 2020 is when we went online, right? So that semester was really not what I expected, because my first semester, most students took 18 units. I took 12. So, and then the spring semester, I took 18. So that's a big difference in workload. And I was excited about the classes I was taking, but I just didn't really know, or maybe I was putting work off that I shouldn't be putting off. And especially, I'm sure, when you're in an online, environment, it's even more important not to put work off because things just get dragged. And I remember standing next to my mom, and I was hyperventilating because I was like, oh my God, I can't handle the words I just had built up for myself. So, it's a lesson learned, but I think that was when I was like, oh my God, I really can't do this. And then my mom, smacked some sense into me. But I think that was one of the most vivid moments of doubt in my undergraduate career. So, yeah.
Do you have any advice for anyone who might be going through that, feeling that pressure, overwhelmed, especially with pre-med and everything you have to do, the MCAT?
Fake it till you make it. I really genuinely would be surprised what I sometimes look in a mirror, look in the camera, and just tell myself. You can convince your brain of a lot of things. So even just saying things like, I can go into this interview and kill it, or I can handle whatever course load you're taking, or I can do well on this test. When you I really think that, and I give that advice to everyone. I gave it to someone yesterday. So I really think, just when you feel like you can't do it, just pretend that you can, and it helps. At least that's what it helped me.
Do you think? Oh wait, no, Aria. What are your thoughts regarding failure and perfectionism?
Oh, I think, especially in ETH, we come, or I think a lot of students come from a place where they're really not used to failure. And people say that all the time, right? Like, oh, you were the best in school. That was not the case for me. I came in well aware of failure and very much understanding of like, I think I had my sort of big failure experiences at my old school. My old school was not a prototypical high school middle school program, so I I definitely had some moments when I was, before coming here that taught me that failure was real. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't really conceptualize until they come into this program. And, they don't use you into anything. It's you get thrown into 18 minutes, which is a lot to handle for any young person, even if you're coming straight out of normal high school, right? So I think it's something that you just have to go through it. Like it's not worth avoiding in the first place because you'll drive yourself crazy doing that. But my dad always said this to me, he said everything's an opportunity. So as much as it sucks getting your first B or that feels like a fail or, or maybe you get like rejected from a job interview. Like I know people who have applied 70, 80 different positions and not gotten anything and they're persistent. So I think persistence is key, which is a very happy expression. But I think, yeah, that's what, failure is just part of the way that your college career and what you career will go. And with perfectionism, I think that's an interesting, thing to consider because I feel like a lot of what perfectionism has to do with is this sense of control. You're in an environment when you really don't, really like there's lots of things I feel like you can't kind of deal with. Is you take a test maybe you didn't study for, you didn't know how to study for, and so that you feel like you can't control it. So this drive to be perfect might be this, okay, at least I can take care of this, at least I can get an A or whatever that might be. And I still, I really enjoy being my best, but I think I've learned that my best doesn't necessarily coincide with someone's like conception of perfection or anything like that. So I think there's a distinction to be made there. And once you learn that distinction, it feels like the goals, like at least for me, what I had in mind were a lot more achievable all of a sudden instead of I have to get these grades and take these classes and beat everyone at this and get the A's and whatever. It's like now when you learn yourself a little bit, you kind of learn what your version of the next step up or like the next sort of run on the ladder really looks like. When you learn that, I think you get a lot more out of the things that you do.
Can you talk more about like free time, hobbies, the importance?
Well, the importance I would say is I think school is your whole life problem. Like it's really a problem, and I think in the whatever that E1000 class or honors 1000 class is, the admin really make an effort to teach you about time management, but I really don't think it's something that can be taught. It's you. Yeah, it's like literally you live and you learn, right? So I think that's you should be able to build something into your life that is just okay, this is just about me, and this is just my time to not maybe relax or just do something that's not school. And I think the other kind of part of that is also finding enjoyment in the things that you do get to do outside of school. So like if I'm a very avid student researcher on campus, so for me that's like a real source of frustration, obviously by nature of being researched, but also enjoyment. Like I really enjoy doing that when I besides my academic coursework. And my personal hobbies in my free time, as I mentioned to you, I really got into fitness. So my whole life is structured around like I wake up at 5:15 to work out. Oh, wow. So yeah, so thank you. I really enjoy it, and that's just the time that I have available. I work, I have class, I can't really fit in free time and the sort of maybe what's more normal in terms of waking hours. So you just do it when you can. So I work out in the mornings, I dance when I have time, I bake as like a reward whenever I take a midterm. So it's just like I'm a very regimented person. I like things that happen over and over again. So yeah, I would say, please, that's what I do. I started waking up earlier and just, it's an hour or two. It's not a big deal. It's for me. So yeah.
Have you ever like at some point felt so overwhelmed with your work that you're kind of putting aside the me time or not focusing on that enough? And what advice would you have for someone who's feeling that way?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's a lot about balance. Like for me, I last semester I was dealing with a full course. I was taking 20 units, I think, right? And so and I was applying to grad school, taking all the exams I needed to take, getting essays ready, letters of research. So there's like a lot going on. And so because of that, my me time and my work ethic started to suffer. So what was happening for me is I was like, okay, I'll do it in the evening, but let me finish one more assignment, let me do the laundry, let me do one more thing. And then it's too late, right? If I work out now, then I can't get to bed. So I decided that something is better than nothing. So I continued my practice and wake up, but I just cut down the amount of now that semester is over, it went back up. So I think, as great as being regimented is, I think it's also important to be flexible and know that there are certain times when school or whatever is going on in your life, or that it's going to just take up more time, the nature of the amount of work that it is. And something is always better than nothing, is what I would say.
You've not taken the MCAT yet, but you're planning to probably like next year or so?
Yeah, and within this year, by the end of 2022.
You started studying? Do you have any
so weird
question, but like different advice.
Any advice? I would say it's a big test, so it's been part of us. So I think it's a lot more than if you feel overwhelmed, like open final, this is an open final, open final, chem final, physics final. It's like everything in one, right? And you're sitting there for 8 hours. So I would say, and this is advice I've actually been given a lot, is the first thing to practice is being able to sit in one place for a large amount of time, at least the amount of time that one section is. So it's like an hour 45, give or take, So be able to sit for an hour 45 and focus and study. And if you can do that, you can do it. If you can work for 90 to 110 minutes at a time, then you can take this exam. And I think, again, it's important to convince yourself that you can do this exam. I think I've definitely been in a place where I was like, can't do it, can't take it, won't do it. But that's not an option, right? Something I want to be a doctor when I'm more than I'm afraid of taking this test. So I think that's how I think of it. And if you do have the opportunity to get into a clinical setting, just every time you don't want to take the exam or you don't want to study, just think about that and you being the position of the person you are shadowing or volunteering with or working for. And for me, sometimes you got to do like spiteful studying. Am I really going to be the person who's like, oh, I did all this and I really didn't, I was just too scared to even take the test. So.
And then I also want to go back to the beginning, to the start of it, but for your master's program, was there any like particular thing that made you decide, oh, let me do this or this would be beneficial?
In terms of like what I want to go into or the deciding where to apply?
Both, like what your future and also maybe like as far as like the time goes.
So as I mentioned earlier, I really want to sort of I did not think this in my master's. My plan was to come here and go straight to my school after. But when COVID hit and I realized I could graduate early, if I wanted to go straight into medical school, I was going to be 16 years old when I applied. And for me, I was like, I would rather take my time and get into a school that I want to go to than be forced to settle for a school that I don't actually want to go to. Because for me, where I go is really important to me. So that's what led me to actually decide to apply for an master's program. And when I came into Eden, my previous school was also located on a college campus, and they had chemical engineering available. And I really wanted to study chemical engineering because I figured it's a good, it's a solid backup for fallback plan if going to medical school doesn't work out. And I came here, and that wasn't an option. And as I pursued more research, I realized that I really, really enjoy the engineering aspect of what I do. I like building things, I like making things. And so I figured with an engineering program, I would be able to do research, which I personally find very fun and very relaxing. So that's why I'm kind of looking forward to the next couple of years of like being able to relax a little bit. And also, I think I'd be well equipped to do research in the future because the programs that I applied to were very specific to what I wanted. And they have, I looked beyond programs and more into investigators, PIs, that I wanted to work with. That's where I was schools. So I really just wanted to create or ensure that I, one, had something to do. And I didn't want to take time off. That just is not how I function. I don't think I could make really good use of taking 2 years off maybe a way that someone else could. And I think it's going to help me in what I want to do. So yeah, I have that question.
So then, do you have any advice for anyone who's applying to like master's program?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like MCAT related, but just generally.
I would say get your statements of purpose done as soon as you can. Don't be me. I remember like my first statement of purpose, it took me like a month and a half, I think, to get a draft that I really liked. And I actually was lucky. I had a friend of a friend who shared her statement of purpose with me. And I really didn't look into other people's SOPs earlier. And I really wish that I had, because that like opened up my mind to what's really supposed to be in this essay. And I would also say, like, don't really overthink it. I think, it's just tell them what you did, tell them what you have, and apply. And I would say believe in yourself too, because I actually the week that I got my first acceptance, the weekend before that, I was sitting on the bed with my dad, and I was just telling him, I really don't think I'm going to get anywhere. I should apply for 5 or 6 more programs. So we had actually chosen, here are the 5 programs I applied to. I still have time to apply. And that week when I got in, I was like, no way. I would say do that. And I didn't apply to a single safety. So do that. Don't be me. Apply to a safety, at least one. So yeah, that would be my advice. And also, if it comes to the GRE, you take the GRE, it's really like, it's not, and I think it might seem like a scary test. It's not. Don't be afraid of, you are smart if you're here, and if you have done well in the English classes here, you can do well on that exam. I believe in you. If anyone's in you, who's going to take it. So.
Yeah. And then since you talked about the GRE, have you taken the GED or the high school exam, and do you think that that's useful, or do you think it's had any impact on you applying to graduate school or any problems?
So I did take the GED. I took it in April 2021. I studied for one night, and I did quite well. So you can probably go in and take it right now. So it's not. Thank you. It's not that. It's really not that. It's not. You can do it. It's really easy. Yeah, it's really easy. It's not scary at all. I did take it, and I think only summer program applications do ask when you graduated, high school mostly. So for that purpose, it's helped. I would say, like, it's nice to just, I always say May 2019, and then if they ask more questions, May 2019 is when I dropped out of high school. So I always say May 2019, and then if they ask more questions, I explain, this is my situation, here's my GED. And sometimes they ask for proof of high school graduation, so I'll just send my GED. I really recommend that you take it, just so it's like you don't need even anyone does not need one day to study for this test. You just need to look at the questions very quickly, and you can go in and you'll pass. Just take it as soon as you turn 16. Maybe not on your birthday. A little downer, but once you turn 16, you have the opportunity to take it. Just get it out of the way, and then nothing will, you always have something like, you don't have to freak out or kind of you'd be afraid that, okay, this is not like, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to show, they're not letting me apply.
Right. So did you take the actual GED or the California high school
So I was not in California. I took the GED.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Because I think in California you have to be in the GED.
I think maybe. Yeah, actually
yeah,
that's true. So I was in Colorado.
So then-
So
Yeah.
maybe that's so if you want to fly to Colorado, go do that. I guess I'm gonna assume that the chess bee is not its own beast. It's basically
That's what it is.
the GEDs. I don't think the same company makes it, but I know that the GED and the high set, the high school something test. Also, is the high set is just another exam that you can take for high school proficiency. So.
Are there any key inspirational figures who have been crucial to your path to success?
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like, I was surrounded by 3 people for about half of my undergraduate career, right? My brother and my parents. So on, I guess, being assigning banal, them, my family, I don't know if they were inspiring or encouraging, but they were something from here, right? So I would say that. And I actually found a lot of inspiration. I got really into music. And so I found a lot of inspiration in some of the artists I was listening to. And that, I think, for me, like, just not even their stories, but just when you hear someone say things that kind of like it warps your brain a little bit into believing those things about yourself. So I would say like musicians that I was listening to, and then
It also kind of brings back to like the affirmation, right?
Yeah,
Believing
exactly.
in yourself. Just say it.
Just say
Take
it.
till you
Take it till you make it.
Yeah. Oh, there's a question.
Hey.
What is the question?
What kind of music do you listen to?
Rap.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm very into rap, and yeah, I can send you all of them. Yeah, I'm really into Russ. I love Nicki, love Tupac, Biggie. I'm a huge Jay-Z fan. Kanye, not anymore, but I used to be a Kanye fan. Yeah, so I love like not like real rap, not like not rap. I love real rap. So that's and that, like, when if anyone here is into rap or listens to it at all, that kind of gets you going, right? So that really helped me, and it brought a little spark, I guess, in a very drab year and a half online. So yeah.
How has your idea of what makes an Eepster changed over time in the program?
I think it's interesting because when we came in, we like the 4th and 5th years, the people who were 4th and 5th years when we were first years were really interesting in comparison to the 4th, at least in my opinion, the 4th and 5th years now. I think, and it's also interesting to kind of be in a position where we're seeing new students come in, right? And almost like seeing how people may have seen us.
Right.
It's really interesting, right? Yeah. So I think it's changed in that I feel like over Honors Academy, it almost seemed like it was like untouched in a way. It was very much like there's an us and there's a them, right? The Robbies, and I want to say that, and the students who were actually in the Eve. So I think like it seems a lot like there are some characteristics that are common among the maybe more successful Easters and people who are really, you can actually not gonna say that, but maybe like there are characteristics among a pretty significant portion of Easters, like drive, passion, like love for learning, that I think have been pretty consistent. And in another sense, I think what's changed is kind of I feel like people maybe overestimate Eepsters and also underestimate Eepsters in a lot of ways. And I think that's shifted me a lot, seeing, new students and what they're, not new students, first and second years and what they're like, versus, even how years older than us who have changed, and from how I knew them before COVID and then how I am And you know, COVID changed a lot of people, I think. So yeah, that's my vague answer to that.
I think COVID and then also I feel like you just like pushes us to change a lot.
Yeah.
It's
You know,
really fast.
it's an environment where you're surrounded by adults as a teenager, and I think that can get to some people's heads in good ways and in bad ways.
Right.
But we all learn. So
Okay. I'm gonna go for. Well, does anybody else have any questions? Oh, Aiden.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that you wanted to study engineering
yeah.
as a professor.
Yeah.
If you don't get into med school or something. So if you do get into med school,
Mhm.
would you feel like you were wasted all that time studying engineering and you're probably not going to use it ever again?
No, not at all. I really don't think that because I think one of the great things about engineering is that it's the business base, right? Especially biomedical and chemical engineering. You always have a business that you can start with it because you can patent anything that you make. So that's one thing. And I think the other thing is I really don't think I'm ever going to give up research. And I think biomedical and chemical engineering, or I should say biomedical or chemical engineering, will teach me what I want to really do research in. And like I mentioned to me earlier, I really chose projects that I really did my research. I chose projects that I really wanted to work on for my master's. And these are projects I can see myself expanding on and pursuing even 10, 20 years down the line as they get more advanced. So no, I think studying engineering is actually one of the smartest things that anyone who wants to pursue medicine really do.
And then we also have a chat question. What is your recommendation for someone who wishes to adopt a more disciplined regimen, whether that be for studying or whatever else?
Yeah. So it's an interesting question, Ryan. Thank you. I really don't know how to give advice for this, except just saying like, okay, maybe I should answer this. So how I started my 5:15 routine. So I was always kind of an early riser. I remember like 6:30, 6 o'clock was always my time to get up, which I know was early in the first place for a lot of people. But so the shift back to 5:15, I just always thought, okay, I have something to do. And I had a very specific reason why I was exercising at that time. And for me, I was coming off the injury and I wanted to prove to myself that I could do the things that I could do before I had that problem. So that's how I began exercising and waking up at 5:15. I need to get up and I have something to do. So along those same lines, I always plan my days out. So I have my journal. And I always say I have my journal when people make jokes like, oh, can I read it? Sure. All you're going to see is a list of things that I do all day. So I list out everything, like making my bed, cleaning my desk, eating and making 3 meals, all of the homework, all of the classes, working out. And as I do everything, I check it off. When I don't check something off, I get furious at myself. So I really make sure that I, make goals for the day that make sense to me and that I know that I can accomplish. And sometimes my list is like really long, and sometimes it's just 7 or 8 things that include like waking up in the morning. So my advice to you would be just start planning your days. And even if you can't, plan out, for me, I don't plan like hour by hour, but I do plan order and I do plan what exactly I need to do. So yeah, I would say just start writing things down. If you're a computer person, type it up on your laptop. Like for example, my brother, he has a endlessly long text edit note that just has all the stuff from like I think 9th grade up until because he's also a senior in college. Yeah. So I like just the things that he does, what he has to do, his to-do list. That's his style. My style is writing it down physically in the journal. So find something that works for you. I mean, and just make sure that you approach every day with a plan. I think when people say I make weekly plans or monthly plans, I think that's stupid because you can make a weekly plan and do everything on Sunday, right? But to me, that's not inefficient. And I just wasted 6 other days of the week. So I like to break things down into smaller bits and say, okay, today I'm going to complete these things, and then tomorrow I'll do this portion and I'll finish the rest of that. So yeah, write it down. The short answer. Sophie had a question.
Yeah, I guess really life stream.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have a question. You seem to have a very like clear path ahead in
Mhm.
mind. What advice would you give to people who are trying to narrow down their career path?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think it's actually interesting for me to answer because, like I said, I've had this kind of clear vision of what I wanted to be from a pretty young age. I think that's one thing to keep in mind is a lot of students who are maybe struggling a little bit with what do I really want to do is they are the students who are young, right? And it's as a young person, you just don't really know like what things do I like, what things do I not like. And so I would say just try to do something. So I don't mean to take a class, and people always say that is, take art classes and politics classes. I really hate taking classes that I don't have to take. Like I'm the kind of person I like to minimize it. So I would say like if you might be interested in art, just sit down for a day or a week or whatever and just try art. Is it something that you could see yourself doing like a lot? Or if it's engineering, try and build something. Like I built a computer and I realized I didn't want to be a computer engineer. So I like maybe that was a little thrown in there. But I think like it's just try something that you, and it doesn't have to be a class, right? So try just something related to something you think, okay, maybe I'll do this. So how I came into biochemistry, actually, I fell in love with chemistry like after I took AP chemistry. I really, really liked it. And I really liked the lab. Like the lab part was the part that I was like, this is what I want to do. And my mom is a biochemist. So, and I really like the human body. So I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do like the human aspect of chemistry, which became biochemistry. So I think, it's just, I would also, so I would encourage you, one, to do things and just try different, things in your free time. Especially as you're kind of wrapping, or as just taking your GE, I think that's like the perfect time to just try and do whatever you want to do. And then also like be reflective. Don't just do something and kind of don't do it mindlessly. Is this something that you're actually enjoying, or is it something that you're just doing because you really just have to? That's fine. Hopefully that.
You seem to be speedrunning through life, right?
Thank you, I guess.
Very fast. And do you ever like push budget and just do that? You ever thought of like taking a break after
No. And then well, let me tell you why. I think I think for me, a long break, even if it's like just a year or 2 years, I know that's a pretty common thing to do among boosters. For me, that would just turn into a waste of time. And I think I know myself well enough to know that I would like, maybe I'd be working or doing something, but I wouldn't feel engaged in my future if I just took that time off. Even if I was shadowing and volunteering, for me, that's like, I do a lot of research. I do a lot of research, and so if I took time off and wasn't really doing that, I feel like I would just maybe lose passion for it, and that's something I really don't want to happen to me. And the other thing is that I build breaks a lot into even my weeks. Like someone once told me like every month you should go on a date with yourself, and so I do that. But I do that very like I take one night off every month or one day off every month. Say, okay, today I hate shopping, but I would go out and do something. Or even just okay, today I'm gonna go have dinner with my friends or do something like that. So I build breaks into my life so that I don't have to say, okay, I've been just working. And I guess my third leg of this answer would be that I really find learning and what I do, like I really find true joy in it. And I think when you find true joy in what you do, you never feel like you really need a really long time off. But yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, my interviewer disappeared, so.
We'll just keep an applause going.
Oh no. You look like the girl in my
Made it before the applause.
Yeah. Okay. Asking what color shoe I want.
Oh, with the blue or purple? Huh? With the blue or purple?
Ew, I picked purple.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Could
think we have
you
the same
hear me
shoes. No,
talking?
no, I think
Oh.
we're buying the same
From
shoes.
Costco?
Yeah. Let's go.
Oh, are you getting the blue?
I got the blue.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Last question then. Wrap up. Unless everybody has any other questions. No. Chat. Any other questions? No. Okay. So last question. Why or what would Nikki of the Honors Academy Summer be proud of the Nikki today?
Well, I'm walking without a brace. I know that I do that again. No, seriously. I think I'm very proud of what I do. I'm, much stronger physically now than I was then. And I really felt like that was pretty crappy. So that's something I really know that I'd be very proud of myself for being able to do the things and that I can do now. I think I'm also a little more sure of myself, and I'm very, I know myself a lot better now than I did in that summer, like the things that I like, the kinds of people that I like, and what I, even like to do with my free time, things like that. I think I would be proud of how well I've learned myself. And I think, yeah, those two things would make me proud. And then I am proud of it.
Another question. Oh, you want to talk about your thesis? Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
Take it away.
so my thesis is I study, one of the research labs I work in is a computational research lab. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I am minoring in bioinformatics and computational biology. And so this professor is amazing. She is an incredible woman. And she and I work on SARS-CoV-2. So that's the virus that causes COVID-19. And we emulate this virus in a computational space, and we also emulate its binding to the human ACE2 receptor, which is it's the receptor in your lungs that the virus actually binds to. And when this association happens, there's a change to something called the binding free energy. And the binding free energy is it's an indicator of how tightly the virus binds to your lungs. So obviously, tighter binding, that can mean a couple of things. Basically, it just means there's a change in the biobiology. So maybe the disease is more like transmissible now, and we saw that with Omicron, right? That's when there's a change in the binding free energy because of a mutation. Omicron was all of a sudden all over everywhere, right? But there's also variants that have been more infectious, so they cause more disease. So what we want to do is we want to be able to study binding free energy. But doing that in the lab is a very difficult and long process, and if you can't study all the mutations that you might study. But when we pull that into a computational space, all of a sudden you might not need all that time and all those resources. So that's what we're doing. Is we are building a pipeline, and we're actually going to be we're going to end up it's end-to-end automated, so you can just tell this thing, okay, I want to examine a mutation at these locations, and we'll build the pipeline itself will actually perform the mutation for you. And then you'll be able to see, okay, when these mutations are done and we have this variant of the virus, this is how the binding free energy changes. So that can indicate to you maybe it's more transmissible or more infectious, or some other aspect of the viral biology has been impacted.
Very interesting. Yeah. Final advice, any final words, anything you want to share?
I would say just, know that you are what you consume. And I guess I do mean you are what you eat, but beyond that, the people you surround yourself with are we pick up on the habits of those around us. Mm-hmm. So surround yourself with good people and eat on balance is full of really good people. So, and I think also I would say, like, take care of yourself. And I mean that in a very physical sense, because for me, the physical and mental health are very intertwined. But when you're very sad or upset, or you feel, lethargic or whatever it is all the time, you're not going to perform well in school. And that's really important for anyone who do well in school. That's I would say, is take care of yourself and care for what you consume. And that's it. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah.